Hello, YouTube people and fellow Altech subscribers. Today, I wanted to talk about something going on in the auto industry that really annoys me because auto manufacturers keep screwing it up. And that's bringing back old retro model names to new models just to sell more cars without actually doing the original model any justice. To chat about this, I've asked my buddy Joe to join me. He knows all things cars to the point of where I'm doing a video, I call him. I don't Google it, I Joe it. And get this, he's an appliance salesman. Kind of confusing. Joe, so we got some cars that are coming onto the market. Let's start from the top, which was, I think, the first one that originally annoyed me was the Blazer. Because I remember when I was younger, my buddy had a Blazer with the off-road package, and that thing was capable of anything.
Well, that was Chevy's closest off-road bad boy. I mean, that's what it was. It was small and compact and two doors and went anywhere.
The new one, I know, I test drove it, and it drove great. It handled bumps like a champ, a smooth ride. But to me, it wasn't the essence of a Blazer, which...
No, it's not a rugged vehicle in that sense. It's a, as we would say in Texas, a pavement princess. It's fantastic on the road. It probably drives perfectly, but it's not a Blazer in any traditional sense of the word.
Because to me, the Blazer is a Camaro on stilts. I mean, it's kind of like Chevy's design language with the headlights. But I don't know. It just kind of threw me off. And then, I don't know, I think it was like a week ago, I saw a Bronco and I couldn't decide if it was a Land Rover Discovery or not. It did not look good.
There's two Broncos. That's the fun part. There's a Bronco and a Bronco Sport, and they are very different cars.
Let's see, this I did not even know.
That's the key there, because the Bronco Sport it's an SUV for around town. It's tiny.
So that's what I keep seeing. That looks just like a Land Rover Discovery to me.
I have only seen one actual Bronco in the wild here. It's a beast. You will know it when you see it. It's got presence.
Did it impress you for the Bronco badge?
I honestly strongly am considering ordering one of those.
A Bronco? You're such a family man, Joe. Will you be going off-road with your children?
Maybe.
You can.
Why not?
I know, exactly. Why not? I think that the thing that's screwing me up these days is the same thing that happened when the Challenger came back and the Charger came back, is they can't be metal. And that's kind of what made those cars. And now it's just wrapped in plastic. And when I look at the Bronco, all I see is plastic. And I can't throw my mind back and say it looks like the original Bronco.
It's just what you have to do to not make a car today 6,000 pounds and completely worthless
and compliant.
Otherwise, none of these cars will matter because you can't make any of them. Or a Bronco would be $120,000 car, and obviously that's not a thing that anyone's going to buy. At least they kept that real off-road heritage and ability. There's some honesty in what it is and what it was. The Blazer is a different thing. I mean, they scrapped what the old Blazer was and were like, hey, we can slap some name on this and get some nostalgia points.
Yeah. And then let's see who did it the worst, Joe.
Oh, the Eclipse.
Oh, wait, what's the name of this thing? It's not the Eclipse, the Eclipse Cross.
Well, because it crosses a line. That's exactly what it is. And it's not even a useful SUV. And it is a funky looking mini Pontiac Aztek as far as I'm concerned.
You know what? That's a good way. Damn, you are dead on. I think this
that back window looks like a Pontiac Aztek.
If a 10 came out of it, I would give it more credit almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. To go from what was like the most able to be modded car, especially from the whole Fast and the Furious days,
family, to
then even like the second generation Eclipse, I didn't love.
It got round and soft. They pulled the 4G63 and slapped in a basically half Chrysler derived V6. It was a compromise all around, but at least it was still a fun, interesting car. But to make it into an SUV it's just a travesty.
Ditching the Evo and then doing this to the Eclipse name.
Man, what Mitsubishi has become today is just unrecognizable as a brand.
The last generation that was actually an Eclipse, my buddy's got it, and it's a peppy car. It's got some good performance to it.
The jelly bean looking one?
Yeah, that's like the full rounded one.
It had some interesting vibe. It was at least sporty.
Which leads us to our next car, Joe, the Supra, which I did my video on and I reviewed, and I absolutely loved the drive of it.
It's a brilliant BMW. That's what you have to treat it as. It's not a Supra in the traditional sense.
And I was just going to say, I love driving a good BMW.
I would almost prefer it over a regular BMW because of the people who generally drive BMWs. So you get all the perks of it, and you don't have to be associated with that group.
And I mean, I forget what was it? The Celica Supra
Yeah.
Right. So that was like the beginning of it. And that was a tight looking car, man. I mean, I'm retro 90s, late 80s all day. That's my style of car.
It was just an upgrade. It was a 6-cylinder version of a Celica when Celica was still rear wheel drive. And then it sort of moved into its own class. And and then that was at the Mark IV, I guess. Is that the A90? I know that's the term, but that sort of took on a life of its own. And then once people realized that 6-cylinder, that i6 was capable of 1,000 horsepower reliably, just kind of took off.
What the hell was it that actually made this car blow up? Was it the Fast and the Furious?
That was a key tipping point. As much as I hate to credit a mediocre movie at best, it really did put a handful of cars on the map.
Eclipse in this.
Yeah, 100%. The Eclipse, the 240SX. And there was a few cars in there that just blew up after that movie in a crazy, crazy way. And probably deservedly so. It was a brilliant car to begin with. They were rare, and they were really expensive back in the day too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I recall my father said he could have either had a kid or bought a Supra at 45 grand at the time, and then he had me, and I was like, man, you should have got the Supra, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know.
Shit move, Dad. Well, the funny thing is like the new Supra. So I remember us discussing this right before I drove it and like really looking into it. And this wouldn't exist without BMW. So Toyota never would have ventured off on their own to create this. So for what we ended up with, I feel they slapped the badge on the funnest thing they could have found that deserved the name Supra.
Yeah, that's 100% what they did. They wanted to have an inline six. They weren't going to spend the money to develop that kind of a car. It was never going to happen. Or it was going to be an NSX. It was going to be a $130,000 car, which is just not what a Supra was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an upgrade over a Celica. It was supposed to be a step up into a sports car that you had. And then frankly, they didn't have a chassis to support it even on the Lexus side. So their only option was to go to someone else. If you treat it for what it is, as a really great version of a BMW, you're getting a great car. If you're looking for a Supra, that's not what it is.
And that's why when I stepped into it, I was like, oh my God, it's a BMW. Like I knew it was a BMW, but to see like, oh crap, it's a BMW. But after driving it, I was like, yes, this is an amazing car. So then you mentioned another car, which is next on the list here, Joe, and that's the NSX. The NSX to me is always a timeless design.
The magic of the NSX was where it came from. It was a Senna designed car.
You want to come with me?
He basically tuned the chassis, and it was unique because it was a supercar with what was effectively a Legend motor in it. You've had Legends. They last. They just keep on going. They're
unkillable motor unless you give it to me for the last 5 years of its life. What did this car retail for? I thought it was really like 60 on the low end.
I think it started in the 60 to 70 range and it ended up closer to 100.
So that's why when I did the inflation adjustment, I was like, okay, this car is slightly overpriced by, I would say 20, 30 grand, but it's in the realm of what a redesign would have cost.
I think the lost part of the spirit was the rawness of the original NSX. I just would have loved to see them slap in a big old V6, make it emissions compliant. I would have loved to see a manual transmission, but what a Vet is today is what I would have liked to see the NSX more like.
If I think about it, where else could they have gone? It's almost taking a step backwards if they go like full manual on everything to the point of where you're remaking an NSX. But then I kind of think they went too far in the other direction where it was too on rails, too guided.
They needed to find a middle ground. It's gorgeous. I mean, I think they did a great job on it. I wish more people would buy them. And
I'm dying to drive it, man. Look, like we can knock on these things all day saying, oh, there's no manual. It doesn't feel like, really could drive the car. At the same time, if you took that thing around a track, you'd say, this is a friggin' NSX.
If someone handed me the keys, I'd hop in and heartbeat and drive away and never look back.
I don't even think you say keys anymore, Joe. I think you say someone handed me the fob.
Listen, I'm old. What can I say? Keys.
Which then goes to the other balls off the wall new release, which was the Countach, which when I saw this, I was like, friggin' yes, Lamborghini. You took everything that was right about that car and you modernized it in such a way, because this anarchy that goes on in the original Countach, I don't think you can try to make that again if you tried.
There's nothing that would pass any kind of legality. The original Countach was so over the top From what I understand, obviously never having driven one, it wasn't exactly a great driver's car either. Like it would try and kill you from time to time.
What Top Gear taught me is that you can't see out the back window. So remember, Hammond had to like jump out the car to look behind him to see where he was going.
You can't see behind you, can you?
I just want to be really accurate, and you can help with that.
And then the window opens up, what, like 3 inches? There's so many things that are not logical. And then there was a lot of issues with overheating and fires with this car too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, because there's not enough airflow.
Yeah,
there was just it was not a good car. It was one Lamborghini was not part of Audi, but it was also awesome. We're a little too young for this, but you go back 5 years before we were around, and everyone had this thing on their wall.
Yeah, that or the Testarossa, right?
Exactly. It was either the Magnum PI car, which is a Testarossa, or this. And the new one is probably the purest modern interpretation of an old car I've seen in a long time.
I feel like when it comes to Lamborghini, if you're going to bring back a name like that, you have such a limited lineup of cars anyway. Don't this up.
You don't have a budget. You couldn't sell a $3 million Acura, but you can sell a $3 million Lamborghini, no problem.
Exactly. Limited numbers. It's only going to go up in value anyway.
Exactly.
So take the shot.
Yeah. Why would you have to compromise on anything? You just build the coolest car you can.
You even pointed out that over the top view of both of them together, which
I
think was the best example of that aerial, like retro to new, is so spot on.
It's funny. Those are features you're not going to see as it drives past you on the road. You're not going to see that V-shaped top and those fins, those vents on top of the engine. But they still went out of their way to make that look reminiscent of the old one, just like a modern version.
Because the name Countach was going on it. The headlights are proper. The taillights are
up.
I know. But their placement is accurate. It's midway. Yeah, it's midway through the front bumper, right? And then the rims are a new old style, like which I really just everything about it I think is a great retro kickback. Now, having said that, the price was something I was unaware of. That's friggin' insane.
Yeah, listen, that's those are all rumors, but I'm sure it will probably be over $1 million. I love to see those cars because, like I say, that's the purest you're ever going to get in terms of taking an old badge and turning it into something just totally new, but reminiscent of the old one.
See, but you say that, and then they just announced the Z.
Yeah,
and the Z. Okay, bro, I saw a handbrake that you pull up. I haven't seen that in a new car with a manual.
That's what I was saying about the NSX is that's what I was looking for. That, hey, listen, we had this great thing from 20 years ago. Let's just make that again. The last two generations weren't bad cars. It's just that the 350 and the 370, that platform is ancient. I mean, it's like 20 years old at this point.
Okay, so that's your holdup on the car, is that it's still using the 370 platform?
It's a modernized version of it. I will definitely drive this car because I am strongly considering buying one. It looks a lot like, I love the old Datsun, the 240, 260Zs. It looks a little like the 300ZX. That's our generation, that 300ZX, that Supra, that 3000 GT, that group of cars, that family, the RX-7, that fight was so, I mean, we got to live through that. And that was just an awesome time to be in the car world.
Well, first off, anyone who owns a 300ZX as of the release of this car, their car probably went up $10,000.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah, their cars were so much more.
Just from the taillights alone.
Exactly. And that taillight shot that I sent you, that right there, when I just saw this and I was like, oh my God, they're doing it. And I think they're doing it right. Because when I saw the interior, I love that giant LCD, probably LED screen for the heads-up display. So much of the interior, there's a little bit of retro-esque kind of everywhere. And actually, I read an interview with the creator of the car, the designer, and he says he doesn't want to use the word retro. He wants to use the word memory. And I respect that because it's a memory of what the history of the whole Z platform was.
They did such an interesting job sort of bridging the whole Z family somehow into one
car.
Such a clean execution of it. I was watching Leno talk about it. He was talking about how the blue seats match the blue exterior, which is something that you used to see in old cars all the time. A maroon car with maroon seats. And it wasn't necessarily a good thing in those cars, but
it's when they committed. They committed to the whole look. Yeah.
We're going for this. It's going to be maroon, whether you like it or not.
It's done very well. It is done very well. And if you get it, I will fly out to Texas and drive it on you.
Please, yeah.
And did you see that Nismo picture I sent you?
I did. It's a little over the top. It looks like someone just slapped the bottom of a GTR on the bottom of it.
It's exactly what it is. It's called Photoshop, my man.
But it's cool. I mean, it's certainly interesting. it's got a lot of potential.
So then an honorable mention here is the upcoming Integra.
I'm excited for. I just don't know what it is. I mean, the rumor mill is all over the map. I had read somewhere that it was going to be a replacement for the NSX as a halo car. And how do you make that jump?
From 16 grand to 160 grand.
Yeah. How do you make a Honda Civic your halo car? I mean, because that's effectively what it's going to be underpinned by, I assume.
And like, is that one mock-up photo that we have of the headlight? Is that a legitimate headlight shot?
So that I believe is from Acura. So
which looks like a Chevy.
It does look like the Blazer. Ironically,
it does, yeah, a little bit. But look, I'm just going to use what they did with the Legend, and this, as a Legend lover, this royally pissed me off. I was so excited to see the reveal, and I saw it, and I was like, it's like an RL. It's like another Acura.
Yeah, it's basically a Japanese nameplate now for a stepped up Accord TLX type of thing. It's not really
I think that moving forward, anyone who wants to bring back an old name has to go through the guy who designed the latest Z, the Nissan Z. Like, you have to get his approval for the design to see. He goes, no, that's not retro or memory enough to say that it's a worthwhile replacement for the car you're building.
You've got to, I mean, what's interesting, I think, and what's part of it is at play is that Nissan is a desperate company right now. They are in a lot of trouble in terms of, their sales rate. They are a hurting company. There's a lot riding on that car. Honda, they don't have that at stake that Nissan does. Nissan needs this to work.
Yeah, I mean, I still laugh when I go to Nissan.com and there's that lawsuit webpage that comes up all the time.
I still make that mistake all the time.
I do too. I'm going to make it again right now just because I want to see it. Well, Joe, I want to thank you for joining me on this retro car adventure of us pretty much hating on all things that have come out in the last 5 years or so.
Well, the good news is I'll either have a 7-speed Bronco or a 6-speed Z car probably in the next 2 years. So
drift into tomorrow, my good man.
That's the plan.
Hey, thank you so much for your time today, Jose.
It's always a pleasure, Alzepi.
It's always good seeing you, my man.
See you, man.
Do you like my air traffic control headgear?
I do. That's some serious headgear.
They're heavy. They weigh 20 pounds and they hurt my head.